Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been exactly 1 year since I started this channel, and so to commemorate it I thought I would do a world tour and a world download of my single player world, because a lot of people have been asking for a world download, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity. And also there's going to be a sneak peek at the end of this video for the future of this channel, so make sure you stick around for that because it's quite exciting. I think the perfect place to start is with the starter house, which isn't actually this. There was a house that was on this exact spot before this house, but I wasn't very happy with it, so I knocked it down and rebuilt this one. And as I said in my first video, it's very inspired by Dialco and his world tour, if you haven't seen that. And yeah, I feel like for a first house I'm quite happy with it, but my building has definitely improved over the year. My style has changed, but yeah, I'm quite happy with this build and how it turned out. And if we go inside, it's got everything you really need from a starter house. There's bulk storage upstairs, a sleeping area, and then downstairs is more storage and where I did a lot of early game smelting. So this house definitely served its purpose and still does. It's definitely my main house on this world. Then from there I thought, well, I'm on this island, I kind of want to populate it, I want to create an island village, and so I started creating more houses. I created this fishing shack and this fishing boat. So if you come out here you've got a nice view of the ocean. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this fishing shack turned out. If you watch the first video, it actually looks a bit different to this. I've done a few upgrades to it, only minor ones, to see if you can spot the difference. And then inside it's all quite cozy in terms of the interior, just basic stuff for a fishing shack. Now this is when I started experimenting with snow and spruce to create this house. The interior is fairly basic, although I did put a carpeted floor, so obviously quite a wealthy person who lives in this house. And the bedroom is quite a big bedroom. With a lot of these houses I kind of just put them in to fill space, which it was fine when I was doing it, but I realized that if I was to do that on a larger scale, let's say I was building in a even bigger area, then I would quickly lose motivation. And although I'm really happy with how these houses have turned out, I've realized that when it comes to building in Minecraft, it's definitely better to have some form of purpose with your builds, even if it's like made up purpose. So for example, this house could be for where the baker lives, and this is where he could make his bread and then sell it. So yeah, that's kind of the idea, is that if you give your house some form of purpose, even if it's a fake purpose, it provides a bit more motivation for it. But yeah, this house is pretty cool. I mean, it's got its own garden, keeps chickens, unintentionally. Now this was one of the first buildings that I built, the Miners Guild. I had this vision of this huge chimney and this roaring fire outside, but the fire had kind of burnt down a lot of the building, so I had to remove that. Now I need to replace these furnaces with lit furnaces, because I think that would give off the vibe that I'm looking for. Although it's not as impressive as a roaring open fire, I still think it would fit the bill. And downstairs, this is where I keep a lot of my materials from mining, so I do a lot of smelting. And the actual interior is fairly basic. I mean, there's living quarters for the miners, and then upstairs is kind of where they go to sleep and store a lot of their things. I actually use this bed quite a lot because it's quite a central place in this village. There wouldn't be such thing as a miners guild without a mine. I'm not actually going to go to the depths because you've all seen a mineshaft before, but I thought I'd show off this area because it's quite chaotic. It's got this cool sort of we're about to enter the mines feel, I guess. There's coal storage, different crates and things everywhere. I actually think swapping some of these off for some six-sided pistons, which I've learned how to do through Boxplayer's video, yeah, that would be quite cool because they're quite crate-like. Yeah, I'm not going to bother showing you the mines. Here's another one of these random houses, but when I was building this is when I started thinking about the purpose of builds and how they fit in. So that's why you've got these this wheat field and this pumpkin patch outside, because I imagine this guy is like the farmer. He provides food for the village. I can't remember if I mentioned that in the video where I show off this house. But yeah, I was starting to think about the lore, and lore doesn't have to be intentional, right? You don't have to come up with a story. It can just be how a build fits into the world, and that's another thing that I've learned from this starter village. And then if we come over here, we come to one of my favourite builds that I've made on this world, and that's this little quaint church. Kind of looks like an English country style church. And yeah, it's got its own separate island. And if we head inside, yeah, it's got a really cozy church feel to it. I really like how this build has turned out. And yeah, although in my first video I said I wasn't a fan of the floor, I actually quite like it now. It's grown on me, so there we go. And if we head down here, we get to this man-made pond that I made, which I think looks pretty cool. We've got a nice bench to sit and contemplate life. This is another one of those random houses. It's one of the bigger ones in the village. Got a little chimney. And then up here is the lighthouse, because I feel like every Minecraft world needs a lighthouse. However, my challenge was to make not the classic striped lighthouse, but something a bit more realistic. So a lighthouse made of stone and brick. And yeah, this is quite a, well, it's a bit of a landmark for the village. You can see it from quite a distance. So it means that I can find my way back, which is the purpose of lighthouses. So I'm really happy with how that's turned out. But yeah, here's a cozy little area for the lighthouse keeper to sit and do some of its work and chill out. And then if we head up here, we get to this viewing platform, which allows you to look over the world. Yeah, I think I need to raise this up by 1 so it's a bit easier to see over these fences. So as we head round to the builds over here, this is where the lore started to get fleshed out a little bit more, because I built this train station as a way for me to get around the world, and then I quickly realized that I feel like the nether portals need some form of reason to exist, and the mages are the ones who come up with the fast travel. So you might think it's silly, but it works for me. And yeah, this is like a creepy mage hut, the cauldron in the floor, and yeah, I'm really happy with how this chaotic interior came out. And yeah, this train station, I think it fits this medieval train station vibe really nicely. And if we head inside, we've got where you can get your train tickets, where you can sit and wait for your trains. And it is an underground train station because I feel like I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I can make tunnels to all the different locations and also gather a lot of materials to then build in the new locations. And this is the nether. There's only really one place you can go to in the nether, and that's the winter mage area, the mage settlement. But I haven't actually done anything that there, and there are other videos where you can check out the area, I guess. But yeah, still not managed to make it and do anything over there. But down here is where the underground rail line will be. Obviously haven't built it to anywhere yet, because there's only really the main island that I'm on which is anything significant on. But once I build significant stuff elsewhere, then that's where the rail line will come in handy. And then the last build on this island is this tavern. So it's the Spruce Tavern, I think for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's one of the bigger builds on this island, and again it serves the purpose of anyone travelling to the island, whether it's miners who are doing work. They have a place to chill out. They also have a place to sleep because there are rooms upstairs. I think there's 3 or 4 rooms in the tavern. And yeah, I really like the communal seating area with the fire, the open fire, and then it's got its own beer garden. So that's the main island, and I know I mentioned in the train station that there isn't really anywhere else that I've built, but that's actually a lie because there is the farming area which I started setting up. So I'm going to make my way over there, and I will show that off when we get there. So as I make my way over to the farming village, I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about something that I've learned over the last year when making these videos, and that is that it doesn't matter if you have more than one forever world. You don't have to have just one forever world, because although I really like this world and I have lots of plans that I still want to fulfill in it, it's not my priority currently. It used to be my priority, and then Betaland became my priority, and this farming village was something that I came back to. I took a break from Betaland and came back to this world. And I think it's important to understand that you don't have to have the pressure of having one world that you constantly spend all your time on. You can have different worlds that you come back to. It's just important not to delete them, because then you end up going through the 2-week Minecraft phase. So yeah, it's okay to have different priorities. And as we make our way over, you'll see that this is where I started to experiment with purpose. I wanted this village to, well, each building in this village to have its own purpose, and there are only 2 currently. But for instance, this building here is a water mill. You've got the water wheel there, and the reason why we need a water mill is because there's a huge field of wheat. So there needs to be a place where the wheat is processed and turned into bread, and so there needs to be a water mill for that to happen. And if we head downstairs, you see this is where the wheat gets processed. It's where I actually store a lot of the wheat. And yeah, so it's creating purpose in build, and that allows you to have the motivation to keep going, to think, okay, what else fits the area? What's going to work well? And another thing I thought of was, well, the bread that's made needs to be shipped off. So it makes sense to have a dockmaster, because if we look, we're right by this big lake. It's probably the ocean, but you don't really get oceans in beta 1.7.3. So it's a place with docks for them to go and ship off the wheat. And this is the dockmaster's house. I'm really happy with how this building turned out. It's got quite an impressive interior as well. Lots of rooms, some big open plan spaces. And yeah, I think for me, this is where I started to try experimenting, building just normal houses but on a larger scale. Yeah, and I think it's turned out quite nicely. So the last thing to show off is this huge wheat field. Now, I haven't put fence posts under any of this wheat, and I've made sure that I've put a fence around the whole thing so that animals can't get in and trample it. And it means that every time I want to plant something, plant any wheat, I've got to shift. However, I think this wheat field is going to be more for show as opposed to actually collecting wheat. Although if I am light on wheat, I probably only need to harvest a small area to make bread. But yeah, this is the huge wheat field. And I think to fit in with this theme of this being like a farming settlement, then there would need to be other buildings that kind of fit that. So there'll probably be a bakery somewhere. This is going to be a barn, so there's going to be some form of farmhouse and a place for the workers on the farm to stay. So you can start to see the idea of, when you've got this idea of a purpose that fits with the build, how the village would come together. So that's the end of this world tour. I hope you've enjoyed. Remember to download the world from the description. As I've said, I will be coming back to this world. There are other projects that I want to complete. I will definitely return to this world in the future. But in the meantime, it's time to see what the future holds for this channel.